I have had the good fortune of knowing people who have made 10x or 20x returns on the investments that they have made in crypto, who have also been willing to teach me how to do the same with my investments. Unfortunately, there have been these arguments inside of my head that have prevented me from investing in the way that they do, which is active investment in small chip or low value tokens that no one has heard of that then blow up after a few months or years. So I thought what I would do in this video is go over those arguments and discuss some counter arguments to them that I've come up with. But as I go through them, I hope that you share any counter arguments that you have in mind that might also be helpful, because I know for a fact that these arguments are holding me back, and it's all because I read Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Taleb 6 years ago, and ever since then I've been unable to take risk properly. I'm not blaming him, but I'm also blaming him. I'm also blaming the fact that I was probably too young to read his books. Anyway, okay, so what are the 5 arguments? One is that instead of investing in crypto and learning how to invest in crypto, you should be learning a skill or multiple skills that let you go from 0 to 1. The second argument is that chances are that you will not make a return that matches the return you would get just from buying and holding Bitcoin. The third argument is that you likely will not get lucky. If you buy these small crypto tokens that no one has heard about, most of them will be duds and you will lose most of your money. The fourth argument is that if you do get lucky and your crypto's 10x or 100x, that you will feel really bad and guilty from the success because it was speculation. And what is to say that the luck that you have is better than, what is to say that the luck that you take lets you deserve the fortune that comes from that? And then argument number 5 is that gas prices are too damn high. It slows things down. Okay, let's go through them one by one. You could invest your time in skills. Just imagine for a second that you've made it and you bought a bunch of tokens that were really small, but then they blew up and they got to 10x or 100x, and you're now a multimillionaire and you're living life comfortably. And then one day your apartment burns down because of a fire and you lose all of your crypto because you cannot access your damn wallet. That would be very tragic. Would it have been better to have spent that time learning crypto, or would it have been better to have spent that time learning a skill like software engineering or how to sell or how to speak? Because if you learn how to code or how to speak or how to negotiate or how to sell, those are things that you can bring with you wherever you go, just like the clothes on your back. It doesn't matter if you lose everything else. It doesn't matter if you have to flee your country. Those skills become a part of you and they change who you are, and they allow you to go from 0 to 1. But if you spend time actively investing in crypto, all you're learning is how to dissect pages on CoinGecko and look at balance sheets if you're doing this in stocks. And that's not a skill that is easily transferable or that is applicable in many different domains, or that lets you go from 0 to 1. I think that the ability for you, like if I got let go from a job, I know for a fact that I could go to 10 different companies, approach the right person there and say, hey, let me help you with this project using these tools that I've built for other companies. And that's because I've done that before and I can do it again. But that's a skill that lets me go from 0 to 1. Investing in crypto is something that you can only really do once you already have money, once you already have $100,000 or $1 million. Then you can take that money and multiply it further. But if you're just starting out with $1 and you're multiplying it by 10, you get $10. That's not as impressive or useful. I guess the counter argument to this that comes to mind is that I'm still investing. I'm still a passive investor. I buy ETFs and index funds. Those do 5 to 10% per year. And there is no escaping investing. You're going to invest whether you like it or not, because there's no way that money is going to just sit idly in the bank, staying there to rot and be eaten away by inflation and taxes. So you're going to be investing in something. And if you're investing in something because you already make money, because you already have a certain number of skills that you use on a day-to-day basis, you may as well put that money that you are saving away to good use instead of letting it sit in the bank. And instead of just putting it to good use, you should put it to the best use possible, which means learning how to invest and doing it well. That's argument number one, and a counter argument against that. Second argument, chances are that you will not make as much as just buying and holding. So this is from a book that I read on stock market investing. The idea is that your best bet to becoming wealthy is to just dollar cost average into a stock market index where you just have maybe the 10 biggest stocks. And as those go up, so does your money. And on average, over decades, you have 8% growth per year. There's going to be ups and downs, but on average, there's going to be lots of growth. And so what ends up happening with people who think they can beat that 8 to 10% a year is that they all tend to fail. They might have 19% or 20% or 50% returns for 1 year, but then the next year they have negative 50% returns. And people don't notice that, but those do happen. So who's to say that crypto will not be the exact same? You're going to buy Bitcoin and do so monthly, and it'll go up and up and up, maybe 20% or 50% a year, whatever that is. And then you're going to try and do this little active investing on the side with a smaller amount of money. But, how much are you going to beat Bitcoin by? It's probably not going to be a lot. That's the second argument. I think the counter argument to this is that maybe it's a small minority of people who beat the market. Maybe there are only, one Berkshire Hathaway for every 20 Berkshire Hathaway wannabes who try and invest. And maybe that's the same ratio in crypto, where for every 20 people who try and actively invest, only one of them ends up making money. But the thing is that you don't know if you're going to be the 1 or the 19 until you try. And the second thing is, if you try 20 times, you're going to get a lucky break. It's 1 in 20. And 3, if you don't try at all, you'll never know. 4, no one's saying you have to spend all of your money on investments. You can just do it with 5% of your total income. Learn what you have to learn. And if you end up losing all of that, that's okay, because you took the risk, didn't work out. But if you end up gaining, you'll gain a lot, and it'll boost your portfolio. So it's worth it in the end to take that small risk, because if you are too conservative, you're not going to be getting the best of all possible worlds. You want to have the stability, but also the risk. And so you don't have to do it with everything. You can just do it with a teeny bit. Argument number 3. The third argument is that you're likely not going to get lucky, but I feel like we addressed that in the second argument, so I'll just skip that. Argument number 4. If you do get wealthy, it'll be because of luck. You are thus a speculator and will lose your self-esteem because you didn't earn it, and thus you didn't deserve it. Yeah. I think the counter argument that comes to mind for that is that you already have a lot of things that you were lucky for. Like, I'm really lucky that I was born in Canada and I grew up in Calgary, and that I can travel the world, and that I have met all the people that I have. It's an immense source of happiness for me and opportunity. But it's not something that I'm proud of because I didn't earn it, but that doesn't mean that I don't deserve it or anything like that. I think when you're in a place of privilege, what your obligation is to make sure that it isn't squandered and wasted, and to do with it the best that you can. So if you do end up getting lucky and you end up 10xing your investments or 100xing your investments, you shouldn't feel bad about it at all. You should not feel proud about it, but that doesn't mean you should feel bad about it either. Instead, what you should do is make the most of it. That might mean donating it all to someone who needs it more. That might also mean making the world a better place, except with more leverage, because money is a tool that gives you leverage to put forth the ideas that you believe in and to change the world in the way that you think would lead to a better world. That's one thing. And then the second thing is, it's much better to be sad and rich than it is to be sad and poor. So even if you do feel like you got lucky and you don't deserve it, that's fine. Just feel that while you're wealthy, rather than feeling sad while you're poor. Getting lucky also reminds me of going to my semester abroad in France. I went to a really privileged school called Sciences Po. It's basically like the Harvard of France. And the next generation of political leadership is taught and educated at Sciences Po. They're like a bunch of sharks with each other. It was wild. Emmanuel Macron, the current president of France, went to Sciences Po. A lot of them had this complex, this guilt complex, where they felt bad and they complained about how privileged they were that they were going to this amazing school. But it just seems so weird to me, because it's like a form of narcissism where you think that by beating yourself that you're doing everyone else a favor, when in reality all you're doing is just elevating your status even more than what you were doing before, without a corresponding benefit to other people. So I think what you should do if you end up being lucky is do more of what you know to be good. You're already doing things in your life that are having a positive impact. You should just try and do more of that once you are freed from the burden of making money. That's the counter argument I have for that point. And then the last idea or argument is that gas prices are high. I go to a WeWork every day, and I try and drink 4 cups of water every day while I'm there. But And to do this, what I'll do is I'll get 4 cups from the shelf that they have, and I'll fill all 4 of them up with water. The problem though is that they have this water filter there, and it takes so damn long for the water to fill up a cup that I almost don't want to drink any water at all as a result. I'm discouraged from it because of how painful the process is. And something similar happens to me in crypto, where I want to invest $500 into this token that seems unlikely to succeed, but there's a chance that it will. But of the 500, 20 will go from transferring my money from the exchange to my MetaMask wallet, and then 20 will go from going to buy the token that I need to trade to be able to buy the final token. And all of that adds up, and I end up investing just $200 at the end, with everything else going to these platforms and exchanges that I didn't mean to. And that's just painful. 2 counter arguments to this. One is that I should invest more, which is easier said than done. And then the second thing is I should consider those fees to be my tuition. When you go to university, you pay tuition. Mine turned out to be $5,000 a year for the schooling, and then $5,000 a year for the room and board, roughly speaking. I should see the fees that I pay in a similar way. I should see them as tuition. They teach me things, and instead of paying a centralized institution to teach me about crypto, which will likely lead to far more conservative gains and a bigger lump sum upfront payment, I'm instead paying these platforms to educate me in the School of Hard Knocks, which is probably going to teach you better. So just take it as a form of education. Those are those 5 arguments that hold me back from investing. But now that I expound on them and consider counter arguments, they don't seem as big as they did before making this video. So thank you for watching. If you have counter arguments to those points that help you, please share them, because I'm sure other people will benefit from them too. Thanks.